Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Parenting and Bonding Through Children's Books podcast. This is the fourth episode of our live video podcast, and I'm so excited. Those of you in our group, you watch it live, and then we send it out to YouTube and your favorite place to podcast to try to reach as many parents as possible. We're live, so we can take question and answer at the end for our very special group members. So, our message is simple: books are magical. They transform homes and they can help strengthen the bonds with our kiddos. Here on this podcast, we're joined by the authors that make the magic happen to find out the true intention behind the books. We want to leave you all empowered to up your game with story time. Today, we are joined by the author behind the book, The Power in Words, Meaghan Axel. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Quinn. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here tonight.
I'm so happy to have you here, Meaghan, to speak about your book, The Power in Words. Let me tell you guys just a little bit about Meaghan, and then we'll get right into the book. So Meaghan's an elementary school librarian, and that excites me because she has like my dream job. I was telling her she lives on the eastern shore of Maryland with her husband and daughter. She loves sharing her love for yoga, meditation, and reading with others. Her debut title, The Power in Me, encourages readers to use the power of their breath to diminish their fears and anxieties. And she hopes her words will help to empower children. On this episode, we're here to talk about her next book, The Power in Words, which is out now and that I love so much. And I'm so excited you're here, Meaghan.
Thank you so much.
You're
I'm
welcome.
quite fond of it too.
Yes. So reading your books and learning about you like through your blog and other interviews that you did, it like your background just puts me at ease. You're a librarian, you're a yogi, you love nature and meditation. It's just so peaceful. Can you tell or the people watching who haven't read as much about you as I have a little bit about yourself?
Well, I wasn't always a calm person. So that's why I try to surround myself with things that help me feel calm. I was a really nervous kid, and it usually came out in stomach aches. And my mom was like, "Oh, it must be something you ate." Like we never made the connection because when you're a kid, you don't have that language to say, "No, I'm like afraid of everything. Like everything makes me feel nervous." So as I got older, I got really into learning more about how to be mindful, how to be present. I feel like I like yoga gives me that confidence, like body confidence, like, oh, look at what I can do, and it helps you relax as well. It's not always just about sitting and meditating though, but I like the power aspects of it as well that make you feel strong. So I think a lot of what you've learned about me is really self-care, and I want to share that message with others. So
That's true. Thank you for that. So meditation, your first book, The Power in Me, was really based around meditation and mindfulness and finding that power inside yourself. What made you write a book, The Power of Words? What was the intention behind moving on to that title?
I don't want my daughter or other children to grow up thinking that they can speak unkindly about themselves. So the
Yeah.
power in words does talk about being kind to others, and it starts with that message, but it ends with reminding everyone. And I say everyone because adults are reading these books with children, so the message is for them as well, that you should never speak about yourself in an unkind way. You're really doing a lot of self-harm. And when you do that, you're allowing other people to do it. So I just feel so strongly that it's not something that's okay. And you see it a lot in your friends, your family, and in the media.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, I'm so stupid," and a lot of self-deprecation. But
Hmm.
it's not okay to me. I think it's a little harmful, or a
It
lot
is.
harmful.
Mhm. And that's so good because the better you speak about yourself, the more you look for in other people to speak kindness into you as well. And so if you're speaking negatively about yourself, you allow more that's not healthy for you from other people.
Yes, I think you're setting the standard when you
Hmm.
speak highly of yourself, and you show positive self-talk, and you don't allow others to ever put you down. So I think
Yeah.
young people need to know this for sure. Sometimes younger people are afraid to speak up when adults say something that could be wrong. So I want to
Yeah.
let them know, like, no, it's you deserve to be treated with kindness and you can stand up for yourself.
Yes. That's excellent. That's one of the things I talk to my son about, Aiden. And it's interesting that you said this book is for adults and children because it so is. As I was reading it, there were a few pages that we'll talk about later that really spoke out to me. But I talked to him about, making sure he lets everybody knows how he feels. And if an
Mhm.
adult says something to you that's unkind, you can speak on that, in a respectful way. So I think, I totally agree with you there. I
Yes.
do. So, about your book, there are so many different scenarios in the book. For those who haven't seen it, who haven't seen Meaghan's book yet, the book is set up to model different scenarios that act as like great mirrors and windows for children to learn from. And I thought that, like, from the first page, the story that you had about it wasn't breaking promises. It was a story, I'm sorry, that you had about, oh, when your friend tells you a secret, don't go blabbing it to others. And seeing them like on the soccer field, and you could see the look on the face of the boy who told his friend a secret, and then he went and blabbed it. And I just loved how it showed how the words or his friend that was telling his secret, the illustration just showed like how you would feel in a situation like that. And it just brought it to life for me. That was so good.
I think Michelle Simpson did a really great job there. You
Mhm.
can see the furrowed eyebrows, the just he looks hurt. And what I like
Yeah.
about that is even if the language and the story itself is difficult for younger readers,
Hmm.
you can bond by talking about, well, how is that boy feeling right now? What do you think is happening? And you can look at the other characters and you can have conversations and bond through
Hmm.
reading the pictures together.
Yeah.
So
And
I
I
like
think, mhm.
I was gonna say I like how the illustrations support the words.
And that's what they're
You know,
supposed to do. And your book was so
yeah.
powerful in doing that. And I think that scene was so good to me because it really spoke integrity, right? Because when you are a child or an adult and you take somebody's information and you share it, you don't see the immediate effects of how that hurts the other person. But when
Hmm.
you're a child and you're reading a book and you're looking at the illustration and you're looking at his face, it like my heart sank when I saw this boy, feel the effects of his friend sharing his information. I think that will be, it's just so powerful for our children to see that.
And it happens all the time in elementary school. It could be a small secret, something that
Hmm.
seems like, oh, they won't mind if I tell other people, but oh boy, it really does hurt them when they come crying, Mrs. Axel, guess what happened? And you just see their little broken hearts. So I thought it
Yeah.
would be a good reminder that when you make a promise, you need to keep it.
Hmm. Yeah, I really love the examples that you use. So you spoke about in school people calling you Mrs. Axel to tell you about what's going on with them. Are the scenarios that you chose, are they drawn from the school that you are librarian at, or?
Not just where I work now, just in general. And a lot of it is most of my career was in secondary education. So
Okay.
a lot of the scenarios are things that I've seen in different levels. So um, the same things happen over and over again, but at different
Yeah.
ages and stages of life. So some of the things that I knew caused a lot of issues in high school. I was like, well, let's talk about this elementary students, so that they
Yeah.
don't end up making the same mistakes, so that they learn a little bit more before they get to that age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Because, like I said before, I think that this book is great for adults as well. There were things, that not that I learned, but we just need good reminders of. And that's
Yes.
why we talk about so much on the podcast is using books as tools and having books that you can go back to as reminders. And I love that, the book is truly a resource for parents and children, but not just that, caregivers as well. We often, like, we don't speak about the role that caregivers play in children's lives, just the other people, grandparents and
Hmm.
um, babysitters and, just everybody who plays a part.
Yeah,
So it's
daycare providers, everyone
yeah.
who coaches. There's so many mentors in children's lives and
Mhm.
so many
And we
people
often
that
don't think about them. And in the group that you know that you're in, that everybody's watching this live in right now. Hey, everybody. um, there are so many. They're not just parents in the group. There's so many people that play a part in really building up, children, and that's an awesome thing,
it truly does take a village.
right? It so does. So, what was the process like for the illustrations? Because it just seems like you and the illustrator were just so in tune with each other in putting this book together.
It's kind of funny. What I do is I make like a chart and and I pin the text up beside where I want the illustrations and um I give the characters names. So I have the book here. This is actually James, and then Sophie here is from The Power in Me. And I'll say, okay, I want James to look really upset. They could be at a sporting event, but you're the artist. You know what, whatever you want to do. And I put these little notes, but I always say like, it's up to you. You're the one who truly knows art. This is just my vision. And Michelle will write back, okay, I was actually thinking this, or I think that's a great idea. And we just seem to connect on in that way where she can understand what I mean with very few words sometimes too. Since we've worked together 2 times now, I think we really had that good working relationship, and I think she likes to, add her own little style to things. Like I know in the picture where Sophie is doing art and the other kids are looking at it and thinking of kind things to say, I could tell she had fun with that and added the little cats on the easel and things like that for her own personal effect. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed seeing what she came up with. So she would send me rough sketches, and I'm pretty quick to approve. I'm like, yeah, I am. I get really excited. Then I'll look back and be like, oh, wait. Sorry, I was so excited. I said yes, but actually, could you change this one thing? I'm sorry. So it's just when you're excited, sometimes you're like, yeah, move ahead. Let's go. So
Yeah,
we
that's
had
good.
fun though.
I can tell I really enjoyed the illustrations, and I like to see the characters carry over from the power in me to the power in words. It was good. Kids like to see familiar characters,
Yes.
so I think that that's a really good thing. So I saw the interview that you did in Behind the Books, right? And you mentioned that one of your favorite precepts from the book is, and I'm mentioning this because it was also mine, when in doubt, words of love are the best ones to mention. And I just love that. I love this so much I had to put it on social media
Thank you.
because I thought that it was just so good. And I think that it's something that I'm going to be saying over and over again to Aiden, as he's growing up, like when in doubt, words of love are just the best ones to mention. Um, what was your creative process like in writing the book, thinking about the different scenarios and the words that you were going to use?
I actually think I came up with that line first, which is funny because it's the last line in the book.
Mhm.
Um, and this is funny, but I actually spoke the rhymes out and recorded myself while using Bluetooth, but driving to work a few mornings. So I used to work a little bit further away from where I live now, and I had to get up very early since it was high school, and I would have these beautiful mornings with the sun coming up, and it's just very peaceful. Driving out towards farms, and things would just appear in my head sometimes. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write this down, but I can't write since I'm driving. And I'm like, well, I wonder if I should start voice recording here and there. And I would speak my thoughts out, and it works for me. I mean, I have a shorter commute now, and I haven't done that since. But for this
Mhm.
book, I remember thinking about, all right, what do I want to say about words, and what are the different situations where you have to be mindful of the words you use. So
Mhm.
with each little scenario, I just kind of spoke out a few rhymes, and of course, it changed so much over time. But
Yeah.
that's my method for this one.
I think that that's I love that you spoke it out to yourself first, because as parents reading the books, when the words flow, it just makes it a much better experience. I mean, of course, you have beautiful books that are not written in rhyme, and
Mhm.
but I think when it flows, it's just a previous podcast we did, the author mentioned that, when it flows, it just flows and it's good. And so reading your book,
I
I definitely got that feeling.
I agree. Sometimes it's so hard because you want to use a certain word and it just doesn't work with a meter. And oh my goodness, it can be so frustrating. And there's always a way to make it work, but you have to restructure and pull out that rhyming dictionary and look a bunch of times until you have it just right. And then have someone edit it, and then you have to change it again. So,
So lots of changes along
oh,
the way.
so much to think about.
Hmm. So how long does the process take, to like write the book or the illustrations?
That
When did you start?
I want to say that. Well, I always have like half books everywhere. So this was like something I spoke out loud a couple years ago in the car, and then it sat
Okay.
in Google Drive. It just kind of sits there. I have a couple others that are also sitting there. And then when I feel like, all right, I'm going to work on something new, that's when I start the and editing editing process. So I
Okay.
think this started in April and
Okay.
got it all polished up great around June, July. But you always have to wait for the right illustrator to be available. And I talked to Michelle ahead of time, and at first she was like, "Well, maybe July, maybe August," and it kind of got pushed back because she's good, so she's busy.
Yeah.
Um, so I think she started end of August with the illustrations, and then carried over to October. So that was a long answer. The short answer would be from April to October. So, and then it came out in November because there's still book design and all the promoting and trying all the fun stuff that you get to do. So more than half a year. Was that 8 months, 9 months? It's like
Yeah.
a baby,
Sounds like about
like a baby, about 9 months, right?
Yeah. So I saw, on some of the things I saw online, you mentioned that this book is a resource, and I love that you use that. I mentioned that before. What was, how did you intend? So I'm a parent, I go to the store and I buy this book. How did you intend for me to use this book with my child?
I expect parents to maybe just do a first very general reading, look at the picture, see what your child naturally wants to talk about first. What
Hmm.
do they notice? I mean, it might depend on their age, but just really a very organic, natural read.
Hmm.
But it's meant to be read more than once for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's different things to pick up, and I do have questions in the back for little discussion starters.
Yeah.
I called it child caregiver because you never know who's taking care of a child if they live with their grandparents, their aunts, if they're in foster care and they don't want to say mom and dad. So I just put
Hmm.
caregiver, but there are discussion guides at the end. But I would, I prefer a very organic read first, and then see where your discussion leads you, and then as a parent, some of the things that maybe are most important to you to talk about if your child doesn't naturally go there, maybe you talk about, well, what about the part where they're gossiping? Do you know what gossip is? Do you know what that word means?
Hmm.
Have you gossiped? I know I have gossiped, and talk to them about real life situations where gossip has maybe impacted you. So I think the third read, you can really stop and talk about each situation together, and talk about how your words impact others and how others' words have impacted you before. Because
Hmm.
I know I could share a lot with Sloan. She's only 3, so she's probably not ready to hear all my stories, but
But you're an elementary school librarian. So have you read this book to your students?
I haven't yet. Um,
No?
I want to read it face to face with them. I want to see their reactions and talk about it
Mhm.
with them. And it's I want to read it to them. We just had it virtual, and yeah, the book came out after we went back to virtual again, so I haven't had that
Okay.
opportunity. But next week I might be able to read it to them. Um,
Yeah.
One student already shared it with his class, but I don't know if he read it or just showed. His mom sent me a picture of him holding it up in a Zoom, so I'm hoping that they don't mind hearing it again, which I'm sure they'll humor me even if they've heard it once.
Kids like to hear the same book over and over
Oh,
again. And this is
oh,
a great book for them to be able to do that. This is the way it's written.
um,
I can see me with Aiden reading this book again and just asking him just very open-ended questions about the illustrations themselves, you know?
yes.
And like you said, asking him what he thinks, what he sees. Has he ever felt that way? Have you ever seen a friend, feel that way? What would you do in that situation? And then reading the actual words to him and asking more questions
Yeah.
just to make sure he understands. I really, really enjoyed reading the book and am excited to use all the resources as well that comes with it. I noticed on your site that you have like ebooks and activities for parents as well.
Yes, every time I make something for myself at home, I'm like, well, why not share it? You never know who else might want it. So
Mhm.
my daughter is she's very determined, but when something doesn't come easy for her, it's I can't, and it's she uh she gets a little dramatic. That's her personality. I think it's wonderful, but so I'm looking at her, and she's trying to put her pants on and she's having trouble or trying to put her shoes on. So I've been telling her, like, you need to say, I can and I will. So I made a cute little poster we just made this playroom for her. I was like, well, I'm going to make a cute little poster to hang up and it's going to say, I can and I will. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, my daughter's not the only one that needs that message. So I'll put it on my website for free. And you never
Yeah.
know if someone else wants it or, um, I made little posters of the breathing exercises from the Power Knee so I could hang them in my little quiet corner of the library when students need a little break, a little brain break, or they need to calm down. And I'm like, well, I'm
Mhm.
sure other people could use this as well. So I always try to share what I've created because I know I'm not the only parent who has, or the only teacher who has the same barriers to success.
Yes. Thank you for that. So, guys, I put Megan's website up on the screen. That's where you can go to check out all the resources that she has, as well as the books as well. I know, tell us about where your books are. I know they're on Bookshop, Amazon.
Barnes and Noble, and I think that's it right now. I try to check to see, oh, have they gotten to Target or Walmart? I haven't checked in a while. Um,
Okay.
I do try to encourage Bookshop a lot because I love that they support indie bookstores and they're doing some wonderful things. And there's Bookshop US and UK now, so
Yes.
they're my
We love
favorite.
Bookshop. We create lists there. And now that I know that, your book is there, we'll add it to our list. We love
Thank
it.
you.
Bookshop, I feel like, people are starting to pick up on, Bookshop. Everybody wants like quick, fast Amazon. Amazon is
Hmm.
so much easier for people, but I can't wait until Bookshop just becomes the source because we love
Yes.
it.
Well, they're
Hmm.
doing really well, so I'm excited to see what
Yeah,
what
they are
happens in
doing.
the future with them.
Yes, yes, I so agree with that. So, your book right now on Amazon, on Kindle,
Oh, it's
it's a
free right now. I almost forgot. So yes, it is
yes.
free on Kindle right now. I like to think of it as whether you're a teacher and you want to use it virtual, well, there you go. You have a digital copy of it. Or if you're a parent and you're not sure if you want to buy it, you can test it out ahead of time. I know I always like to browse books and decide which ones I really want to commit to having in my home library and which ones will I read again and again. So I think it's important to have free Kindle days here and there, and I'm having one now.
Yes. I feel like the internet went something went blank for a little bit, but I think that we still heard your audio. So thank
Oh,
you for sharing
it just
that.
there was like a little spinning wheel for a second.
Yes. Don't you just hate that spinning wheel?
Ah,
So anybody who may have missed that, Megan's very powerful book, for lack of another word, The Power in Words, is available for free right now on Kindle. This is a book, like all the books that we mentioned on this podcast, that can be used as a tool in your home. It is a great resource in the classrooms and, school libraries to really get into, I'll say, the nitty gritty of how our words can impact other people. Is there anything else on your heart to share about your book?
um, I did want to share, there's one page that I think some people may not always think elementary students need to have a conversation about the words that they use online, but they're playing Roblox, they're doing Minecraft games, there's chat in a lot of those programs, and I think we might, as a whole, as a community, need to address being unkind online sooner before middle school and high school happens, and before we say, here, have a phone, and then have it in your bed at night, or bedroom at night, not bed at night, bedroom at night, and there's a lot of mean stuff that happens virtually like that, and I think that it's a conversation that really needs to happen at home and consistently happen at home before anything happens. So.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm glad that you mentioned that. And that's so good because we want to start that conversation early so that if they do see something unkind, online, they feel comfortable coming to us and telling us that. And having conversations early increases the comfort level that they have to talk to us, because if sometimes they might hear something unkind and they just might X off and go to another video, and that's great, but we want to know what that is so that we can help to kind of control the content that they're seeing, right?
And help them process it, because it might come up later, and I think it's really important. So
exactly.
I had to include that little section. It's probably the librarian in me, because I do teach digital citizenship, but
well, we appreciate that. Okay, let me see if there's any questions over here in the comments. Oh, people are loving the illustrations.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'll tell
Can you show us the cover one more time?
Sure.
It's such a beautiful book.
Thank you. I love, she did a great job with the use of color in this book. There's one more, the spread here. Oh my gosh, sorry, I have to reverse it.
No, it looks good. You guys can see it okay, right?
Michelle is fantastic.
She is. That one scene in the scenario in the book when the boy is standing in front of the mirror and he has like enveloped around him, just the way the words are making him. Yes.
Yeah.
That was so powerful.
I just love the self-love there, though. This was her idea. I was like, how can we convey that, the words are making him, she came up with all this. So I was like, how can we show this in a book? And she was fantastic about that.
That's awesome.
I actually have some of her art in my daughter's room, because she has.
Oh, that's cool.
She has an Etsy shop, and I was peeking in there. I'm like, you know what? I want to support her this way, and my daughter loves it. So.
Well, I'm going to have to share the name of the illustrator in the group, because I don't think I have it listed.
Okay.
Now that we know. So somebody said they just love it. Very empowering words. Thank you. Oh. More people loving the illustration. And somebody said they're glad you mentioned the online bullying and the unkind words. They could see the unkind words online, because it's just so sad, the things that kids experience that we didn't have to go through 15 years ago.
Thank goodness, but we have to support them through it. So
yes.
Even if we can't relate, it's our job to make sure they know what to do.
Exactly. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Meaghan, for joining us. I really appreciate you. Thank you all for watching. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much, Meaghan.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.